Hey everyone, this is Matt Gallagher. I am the Vice Chairman for Communications of the 105th Chicago Yacht Club Race to Mackinac, presented by Veuve Clicquot. I am also the invited competitor and skipper of the boat Endeavor in the cruising division. We made a couple changes to how skippers manage crew members, and we're going to give you a written version of this also, but we thought a video might be helpful for our skippers to see the changes in the race management system and how to manage your crew. These changes aren't huge compared to past years, but there are some differences, and we wanted to let you see how that works and give you the opportunity to answer any questions. Any questions should be directed to our race coordinator via email, racecoordinator@chicagoyachtclub.org. And as always, the race is governed by the race documents, the NOR, SIs, and the like. And anything I say here is just a matter of courtesy, and any conflicts are resolved in favor of the NOR. So with that, those of you who sailed last year probably remember we added the requirement for individual crew waivers. We realized that the technique we had for those last year involving scanning and emailing and faxing really didn't work for our skippers or crew members. So in the off-season, we tried to implement a change which we think will help our invited competitors make their jobs easier and make the crew members' jobs easier. So we're going to demonstrate that to you today, and I'm going to do that via my own entry in the Mac. The fundamental difference between this year and all prior years is that in past years, the skipper was involved and required to manage all the individual crew members' contact info, their name, address, email, emergency contact, all the information that's required via the NOR. This year, we've made a change so that individual crew members get their own login. And once they get that login, they are the ones actually required to maintain their own information. It's still on you as the skipper, if you read the NOR. It's still on you to make sure that accurate information about your crew is in the database. And obviously, we do that for emergency purposes more than anything else. It's really critically important to our race management team that we have that emergency contact info and other accurate information about the people on the boat. So it's still on the skipper to do it, but the actual entry of the data and maintenance will be done by the crew members. So let's show you how that works. I'm going to go ahead and, via the CYC Race to Mackinac site, I'm going to log into my own record, and that's done down here via competitor login. And there's my record. A couple other changes I'll point out since we're here. We encourage you to upload a photo of your boat. You can see I've already done that here. If I hadn't done that, there'd be a little box you could click on to upload a JPEG photo of your boat. If you don't, we have a default one of a duck called Duckzilla sailing by the Rhode Island Lighthouse. So we encourage you to get your own in there. And when you have your ORR certificate, which I don't have mine yet, this is how you upload it. You don't need to email it or fax it anymore. So that's a little detour. Here's how you maintain your crew list. The link is in the same spot it always has been. Enter or update your crew list. And it looks kind of similar. If you recall, you set the number of crew members you have via your main screen. But here, you can add new crew members or update them. So the screen's a little bit different. So let's take a tour here. First of all, I'm sailing with 7 people on my boat. If I needed to change that, I could click right here to do that, but I'm happy with the 7. The record indicates that I need 1 member added to my crew. I actually had done this a while ago, so I went back in and deleted myself so I could re-add myself, so I can demonstrate that for you. But you can see the rest of my crew members are here. And for each one of them, you can see Michael, for example. There is his name. He has executed his waiver. I'll show you what that is in a minute. And he's complete. If I want him to update, if I think he's moved or changed his address, or I think there's some incorrect information in there, all I've got to do is click on Email Crew for Update, and an email is automatically sent to Michael to ask him to update his information. And then I'm taken back to this screen. In this case, I want to add a new crew member. It's important to remember that you are a crew member of your own boat. And this is the one thing that's a little bit confusing about this. You're going to wind up with 2 logins. You're always going to have your invited competitor login, but additionally, you're going to have a crew member login. So you can see here I've got the rest of my crew listed, but I'm not listed. So I'm going to go ahead and add myself as a crew member. The skipper, the invited competitor, is required to enter 3 fields. First name, last name, and email address. If you know more information, you are welcome to. You can see my mine actually auto-populated from Chrome, but I'm going to get rid of that. The other thing the skipper can do is designate the role. If you recall the NOR requires you to have a person in charge, 2 watch captains. I don't believe that the NOR requires a navigator, but you can designate that person too. That's the only information that's required to be entered by the skipper. If you know more, you're more than welcome to fill it in, but in this case, I'm just going to leave this all blank so you can see how the crew member fills it in. Once I do that, I'm going to click on Add New Crew Member Information, and that person has now been added to the database. Now, if you go back to see my crew list again, you can see I have 7 people, and we're happy with that. And everyone's complete except for me, the new guy I just added, and it shows that I haven't done my waiver and it's incomplete. Now I could click on email crew for update, but when you first enter a crew member, the crew member is automatically emailed for an update. So I'll show you how that works in a second. You can also see how to manually update the information yourself if you choose to. You can go in and enter any of that. Or remove a crew member from your boat or delete a crew member from your boat. The difference is if you remove a crew member, their record kind of still sits out there in limbo, and if you ever want to add them back in again, you don't have to go through that hassle, whereas delete actually deletes their record. So we're going to exit out of the skipper's view here and go to the crew member's view. So I'm going to go ahead and quit this and launch my email program to show you the email that I would have just gotten from the system. So click on my inbox here and get my email. There it is. So I got an email from the race coordinator at Chicago Yacht Club. It's telling me that the owner or skipper of the Yacht Endeavor has added my name to their crew list. Please log into the crew corner for this event to verify or update your information, and it provides you your information here. Easiest thing to do is click right on this bottom link right here. Click to log into your crew number. It saves all your password and all that stuff for you. And you can just encourage your crew members to save this email. This logs me into the system. Now remember, we're looking at this now from my point of view as a crew member, not as the invited competitor anymore. Each one of your crew members is going to have to do this and see the same thing. The crew member is required to fill in all of this information. Unlike the skipper who only had to put in first name, last name, and email address, the NOR requires all of this information be provided. And again, we do this for safety and race management purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and enter, as soon as Chrome will let me do my thing here, start entering all the data that I need. Oops, get rid of that. And I'm going to put some dummy information in here for now. So again, the crew member is required to put all of this information in. The crew member is required to do it, but you as the invited competitor are the one on the hook and subject to protest or possibly not being invited to return to compete if your crew members don't do this correctly. So I'm going to show you in a second what I'm doing on my own boat, and I'd recommend you do, which is verify all this information. So experience detail, as you recall, does matter, particularly for new invitees to the race. Our selections committee wants to see how many overnight racing experience you've had and offshore racing experience. So let's say I've done 5 Transpacks, which I have not, and we'll do 10 Newport races. The other thing that's very important is emergency contact info, and just as a reminder, I know we harp on this a lot, it's got to be a real person who is not on the water, who would be the person you'd want contacted in the event of an emergency. So in my case, my sister I'll put down, and her phone number and her email address. And I gotta put something in here. And any emergency medical notes right here, or any other information you feel is necessary. The last thing the crew member has to do is read and accept the waiver. If you remember last year, we had faxes flying back and forth in emails. This is a lot easier. The crew member needs to read through the release of liability, assumption of the risk, and permission to use their image and pictures, and they have to accept that. If they decline to accept that, then unfortunately they're not allowed to enter the race as a crew member on your boat. The other thing is, if your crew member is a minor, a minor can't sign a waiver, so the minor goes ahead and fills in all this information, but then clicks on I am under the age of 18. A parent or guardian has to then download the minor's waiver form and return it to our race coordinator no later than July 5th if the minor is going to compete in the race. If you have any questions on that, email the race coordinator. But I'm going to go ahead and save and update my information there. Oops, and I didn't put in my crew position, so it stops me. So I'm the person in charge. Now it should accept everything, and that's it. So now my crew member's updated the information. The other way the crew member can access this screen is, in addition to clicking on that link in the email, they can actually go down here to crew login, and they log in using the email address that they provided and the password in that email. So if they want to log in that way, they can do it if they need to go back in and update things. Although I find it's just easier to have the skipper send them one of those update email address update emails. But in this case, I'm not going to make any changes. Again, so now we can log back in under my skipper view and see that the crew member has done that. So we'll go back to competitor login. Oops. I typed in my password wrong there. And now you can see my crew list is complete. I'm seeing a lot of green here, which is exactly what I want to see as a skipper. But now if I go back into my current crew list, you can see that Matthew Gallagher, the person I just added, has completed his waiver and his information is complete. This is what you want to see as a skipper. You want to see complete and yes next to each one of your crew members. You will not be allowed to check in for the race in Chicago unless that's the case. What I am planning on doing is about a week before the race, clicking this email crew for update for each of my crew members and asking them to make sure that their emergency contact info is correct, they haven't moved, anything like that, and make sure that information is accurate. Again, if Brendan forgets how to log in, all I gotta do is click that, and it's going to send him an email telling him to update his information. Those are the main changes. So kind of your takeaways are, remember you're a crew member in addition to being the competitor, so you need a crew record. You want to see yes and complete for each one of your crew members, and you as the skipper are responsible for adding in your crew. They're responsible for keeping their information current, but it's at the end of the day on you to make sure that it's accurate. If you have any questions about this, as always, feel free to email our race coordinator at chicagoyachtclub.org, and we'd be happy to get back to you as quickly as we can. Encourage you to do this sooner rather than later, and thank you very much for your time.